This is ITV News at 10 with Tom Braby.
Good evening. Over the past year and more, our investigations correspondent Daniel Hewitt has been telling a clear story about housing in this country. It has been absolutely heartrending at times, an unfolding tragedy of ordinary people caught up in extraordinary circumstances through no fault of their own. It began with a series of reports about the dire state of much of our social housing, including some places that frankly weren't fit for rats. But as he has grappled with the enormity of the overall shortage of housing, Dan has found himself dealing day after day with people who may be working but find themselves turned out of their private rented flats and houses onto the street with absolutely nowhere else to go. The number of Section 21 notices being issued is rising dramatically. Forced, no-fault evictions. Perhaps fair enough in normal times if a landlord wants to sell, but in a world where there is nowhere else to go, these evictions are inflicting a visceral terror on thousands of families.
On this quiet, suburban estate, one family's life is about to be turned upside down.
You think that this is a dream. This can't be happening.
What time are they due to come? 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
It's the day Carol has been dreading. The day her home of nearly a decade that she shares with her daughter and two young grandchildren is taken away as she waits for the bailiffs to arrive.
And it's been through no fault of our own. You know, we're just a little family trying to get by.
As she takes out their belongings, a few yards away, the bailiffs have pulled up, ready to move in. Carol and her family are being evicted using Section 21. It is a no-fault eviction notice. The landlord says he needs to sell the house, and despite both working, Carol and her daughter can't find anywhere else affordable to rent and will be homeless in a matter of minutes.
My life cover will look after my family.
Okay.
I do wake up in the mornings and think, oh God, I wish I could have died in my sleep. I know obviously it's not a nice thing to say for my daughter and my grandchildren with me not being here, but at least they'll be able to get back on the ladder.
It's 10 o'clock on the dot and the bailiffs enter the house. They don't knock, they just walk in. By court order, it's now theirs to take.
You all right? Right, are you already packed and everything ready to go? Is it arrears or is it...
No.
Is it not?
No, through no fault of our own.
With quiet but brutal efficiency, they are asked to leave.
How much? Have a good day.
The eviction complete, the locksmith immediately makes sure they can't return, as the reality sinks in for Carol and her daughter.
Tell me what you're thinking right now.
I feel like we've been treated as criminals.
Your world's just fallen apart.
As they try to call the council's homelessness department, the family have no idea where or even if they'll have a place to stay for tonight.
What we've witnessed here this morning is happening across the country. Court-ordered bailiffs being sent to people's homes to evict them, with nothing that tenants can do to resist, and in many cases, nowhere for them to go afterwards.
In Luton, it's a fate Charlotte is fighting for the sake of her three children.
This is all of my documentations that I've gotten together.
After getting the kids ready for school, she's going to court to challenge the Section 21 no-fault eviction notice they've received.
I'm defending myself. I couldn't afford a solicitor, and because my husband works, I didn't qualify for legal aid either.
Her and her husband have privately rented this home for 10 years, but the landlord says they want to sell the property.
For the Section 21 to be allowed for you to have 2 months to pick up your whole family and your home and your children and everything they've ever known and just move on is completely impossible. Don't get me wrong, I'm getting on breakfast, big smile, let's get all to school, but inside, it's another story, I'm petrified.
Charlotte and her husband have searched and searched.
Right, okay boys, we ready?
But can't find anywhere else affordable. She hopes today she can make her case to stay until they find somewhere to avoid becoming homeless. Later that day, we meet up with Charlotte outside court. It's not the news she wanted.
I've got 6 weeks to leave, or they'll apply for the bailiffs. I have nowhere to go. My children, my husband. We've private rented our whole lives. I can't believe that this is happening. I don't know what I'm going to do.
In England's creaking courts and broken housing system, it is those with the least who are suffering the most.
For Carol and for Charlotte, things could hardly get any worse, and we'll hear more from Dan in just a moment. But it looks like the housing crisis will only grow. Joel, mixing my words there. But listen, can I ask actually both of you, now you're here, to just paint a bit of a picture of this, just to clarify it. People are falling behind on mortgages. This is a problem that seems set to grow.
Yeah, look, there's what they're going through at the moment, both of them, is horrific. And they're at the rough end of really rough justice, which this massively dysfunctional market is meting out. Both Carol and Charlotte have been evicted by landlords that say they want to sell the house, Tom. There's quite good evidence, actually, that that's happening to an increasing extent. I was speaking to an auctioneer earlier down in Southend who said that his auction's flooded now with private landlords who are selling up. They're getting out of the market. There are two reasons why they may well be doing this. One is because the government abolished a tax break for landlords, which was pretty lucrative just recently. And secondly, it's interest rates. Interest rates have risen extremely fast in the last couple of years. It's put enormous pressure on homeowners. We know that more and more homeowners are falling into arrears. We know that private landlords are too. The number of landlords struggling to make mortgage repayments has soared by 30%. They've fallen into arrears in the last 3 months. 1 in 5 people in the UK live in private rented accommodation. There are 2 million buy-to-let mortgages. Landlords are increasingly struggling. This has the potential to affect an enormous number of people.
And that explains why we're seeing this jump, 38%, in the number of Section 21 no-fault evictions being handed out by landlords, either selling up or because they can up their rent. What it doesn't explain, though, is why we're seeing this rise in bailiff possessions of 28%. Why would a tenant go all the way to court, drag it out for months and months, knowing they'll lose, the law's not on their side here, facing bailiffs to come to their door? Well, they'll do it because they've got no other choice. They've got nowhere else to go. They can't afford to rent privately because rents are far too high. They go to the council, and the council advise them to stay put for as long as possible, stay until the bailiffs come, because they haven't got any homes to give them either. The government says it's going to ban Section 21 no-fault evictions, but only once it's reformed the courts. But court reform doesn't solve the ultimate problem here, not enough houses. Both Carol and Charlotte would have found someone else to rent if they could, but they can't, and that's why they're in this situation.
OK, both of you, thank you very much indeed.